What is up, guys? Welcome to Real Time Recording, the channel where I show you how to make kick-ass music in a short amount of time with some basic equipment. My name's Luke McClurg. Let's get started. Alright guys, welcome to the first episode of Real Time Recording. Seeing as how this is the first episode, we're going to kick things off with a really cool bluesy sounding composition. Blues is always a great place to start from because not only does it kick ass, but it's the foundation to most music that we listen to in the Western world today. When we're making a recording, the first thing we need is some sort of an idea to get the ball rolling. This can be anything. It can be something that you came up with on guitar, bass, drums, percussion, although drums are percussion. But is a percussion a drum? Someone should research that. How's there sound right now if my lips aren't moving? Anyway, the point is that we need an idea. And it can come from anywhere. It can even come from the sound of an idling car engine. We just need something to get us started. Today, the idea that we're going to use comes from a riff that I've been working with on guitar. I'm using a Les Paul guitar and I'm on the bridge pickup. I'm running it through this Marshall DSL 100H amplifier. It's on the clean channel on the high gain mode. I have two microphones on this amplifier right now. But if you don't have any of this stuff, don't worry about it. It's not necessary. You can run directly into your computer, right into GarageBand or whatever you're using if you want. I did that for many years in college. This is just about having fun and making something that sounds cool. I don't have any effects on this amplifier. However, I am running it into Pro Tools on my computer, and in Pro Tools I have some 16th note slapback delay and some reverb. Lastly, you'll need to figure out what the tempo is of the riff that you're going to play. I happen to know that this one is around 100 BPM, so I'll put that into my click track in Pro Tools. If you didn't know what your tempo was, you could make a brief recording of it and then use a feature called Tap to Tempo in your recording program. But I know that this one is around 100 BPM, so I'll put that in my click track and let's see what we can come up with. Alright guys, now I always like to add drums as early as possible in the recording process, and this is because any instruments that we add on top of what we already have, the performance will sound much more musical if it's performed on top of drums as opposed to on top of a metronome. So let's go ahead and slap some drums on this. When it comes to drums, there's a few options. The best thing to do is always to have someone play the part, but I'm not a drummer and this isn't going on the radio, so I'm not going to hire someone to come in here and do that. That leaves us with programming drums, which isn't as big of a deal as it sounds. There's a number of different programs you can use for doing this. I'm using one called Kontakt, and within Kontakt there's an application called Studio Drummer. Studio Drummer allows me to either play the part on a keyboard or choose from a library of drum loops within the application. The loops will change with the tempo of your project, and once you drag a loop into your project, you can change the individual notes in it, which is quite useful. For this first section of the song, I found a loop that I like, and it sounds something like this. Alright, that sounds pretty good. It definitely works. But it doesn't necessarily sound like the drummer played it with this specific riff in mind. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to customize it a little bit. I've taken out some of the accents and I've enhanced some of the other accents, and now it sounds like this. It's subtle, but it's there. Finally, I've gone through and added some hits on the kick drum, and this is where you'll really start to notice a big difference. When the kick drum starts following the accents of the riff that you're playing, it really starts to feel like this drum part was meant for this song. The second part of our riff is pretty straightforward, so I went ahead and I played something on the keyboard. Kick and snare are usually the meat and potatoes of any drum part, and the snare usually lands on beat 2 and 4. So I played those two things first, and here's what it sounds like. Once I had that, I added a hi-hat on every quarter note and a crash on the end. So it now sounds like this. A crash hit during transitional periods in your song can really go a long way in livening up your drum parts. If you're new to programming drums, I would recommend going online and watching a few basic tutorial courses in drumming. You don't want to program anything that a drummer couldn't actually play, and a few basic concepts will really help you to understand this. At the end of the day, remember, there's no octopus drummers, or at least I haven't met any yet. Every drummer that I've ever known has only had 2 arms and 2 legs. Now that we have our drum part, the next foundational instrument is the bass. That's going to give us our groove, so let's throw that in there. Sometimes when you're doing the bass part, it's a cool idea to have the bass do something unique and different to create the groove. And this is definitely not one of those times. So far we have a complicated guitar part, a busy drum part, and if we try and add any type of crazy bass part on top of that, everything's going to turn to mud. You're going to end up in Mud City. And guys, you want to steer clear of Mud City. No one likes that place, unless you're into that type of thing. Me personally, I'm going to stay on the clean side of town, at least until the end of this video. And in order to stay squeaky clean, we're going to lay down a bass part that is almost identical to what our guitar part is doing, maybe with a few small flourishes here and there. So let's see what that sounds like. Alright guys, that sounds pretty good to me. And by the way, this bass tone is just me going directly from this bass into a mic preamp, going into the computer, and then in Pro Tools I'm running it through a program called Guitar Rig just to boost it up a little bit. Alright, so now that we got the bass covered, let's jump back over to guitar. Stylistically, I don't feel that this section of the song needs a double of the guitar part that we already had. However, I am going to add a new rhythm guitar part. I'll pan the 2 guitars in opposite directions to create a wide stereo effect, and you'll hear what I'm about to play on the left side of the track. As far as settings, I have everything exactly the same. The only difference is that I'm now using the neck pickup of my guitar, and I have taken the slapback delay off of the track in Pro Tools. All right, guys, we got a pretty good verse section so far. We want to have something that would work at least for a verse and a chorus. So let's go ahead and add another section to this. For now, I'm going to stick with the same tone that I was just using because I think in the chorus section, the rhythm guitar is going to have the spotlight a little bit. So let's give that a shot. Alright, so just like before, we have got our raw guitar idea for our chorus, and now we want to get drums on that mofo ASAP, so let's do it up. Again, this is a pretty straightforward part, so I just played it on the keyboard. I started with the kick and snare. Then I added the hi-hat. I started with eighth notes at the beginning and then transitioned to quarter notes towards the end. I looped that phrase over and over again for this section of the song. I added a crash at the beginning of each phrase, again to emphasize the transition. And at the end of each phrase, I added some sort of a drum fill. This will help build up the energy. But remember, if your drummer's doing a fill, they have to stop doing whatever they're doing on the cymbals. All right, let us jump back over to that bass, which I am all about. Now, again, this isn't the time or place for our bass player to go wild, but we do want him or her to have fun. So, at the end of each phrase, I'm going to play a little lick that sounds something like this. Let's give it some context. All right, guys, unlike the verse section, I want this part to hit really heavy. And so in order to get that effect, I'm actually going to double the rhythm guitar part. And what that means is it just means that I'm going to play it twice. So you'll hear me playing it once in one headphone and you'll hear the second one in the other headphone. And you'll see that it gives it a really wide, heavy effect. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my lead guitar, which essentially just means that I'm switching back to the bridge pickup here, and I'm going back to the track that had the slap delay on it in Pro Tools. And I'm just going to record a very basic lead guitar part. In fact, all I'm really going to be doing is highlighting the bass notes that are happening in the rhythm guitar part. At this point, we have plenty of material that we can copy and paste to the end of the song. But a producer once told me, and I think it's really true, that if your audience is going to lose their attention span, it's going to happen somewhere around the second verse. If you can add a variation to the second verse, it'll keep your audience listening. In this case, I'm going to get rid of the rhythm guitar that we used for the first verse and come up with something slightly new. I'm going to put this new guitar part on a separate track in Pro Tools because I want to use more reverb on it and create more of a textural sound. Something else to pay attention to in this section is the drums. I've gotten rid of more of the flourishes, and I have added an even more consistent rhythm to the kick drum. This should provide for more of a groove. thus completes verse 1, verse 2, chorus 1, and chorus 2. And that means it's time to move on to some vocals. Now, I've written some generic lyrics for this song, and when it comes to writing lyrics, all I'll say is this. You're trying to get an emotional response from your audience, and one of the best ways to do this is to use imagery. For example, if my lyric was to say, I feel really sad, you might say, who the hell cares? Lots of people feel really sad. What makes you so special, bruh? But if my lyric was, I feel sad like a lost puppy in a thunderstorm without a companion, some of you might say, I don't care, fuck that puppy. But most of you would probably say, oh my God, dude, that's so sad. He's all by himself, under his little cardboard box, crying his little puppy dog tears with his little puppy dog eyes. And I would say, yes, that is very sad. It's also very cliche and totally sappy and an all-around terrible lyric which you should never use. But the point is that it uses descriptive imagery to elicit an emotional response. In short, use your lyrics to paint a picture that your audience can relate to. Now that we got lyrics covered, on to recording vocals. I'm using a condenser microphone for this, which is the best type of microphone for recording vocals, but if you don't have one, don't worry about it. Also, these do require phantom power, so be warned on that. This one is called a Bluebird, and it is by the company Blue. I also have a pop filter, which is very important because this stops some of the more harsh sounds of the voice from coming through. These pop filters are very cheap, and I suggest that everybody get one. The most important thing about recording vocals is that you don't record too loudly or too hot. This just means that when you plug your microphone in, don't crank your gain up all the way, because this is a sound that cannot be undone later in the process. Another thing you want to look out for when recording vocals is getting too close to the microphone. If you get too close to the microphone, well, you're going to have a bad time. About 6 to 12 inches away is a good distance, depending on how loud you're singing. All right, guys, you ready to do this? I'm ready to do this. Let's do this. If I could rearrange the things that I've been told, kept me trapped inside my brain and stuck inside a mold, I'd delete this forever and leave it lying cold. See, I've been running round circles since day one, burning out without a doubt like butane on the sun. But I keep on going, ain't no slowing till that final day has come. 'Cause every day there's a new battle to be won. And now, some vocalists will like to go through the entire song start to finish and do that over and over again, and I have always found that that takes a lot of time. And personally, I prefer to break it into sections. Unless you're Christina Aguilera and you can just walk into the studio and record I Am Beautiful in one take and then walk back out of the studio. As it just so happens, I personally am not Christina Aguilera. I know I might have had some of you fooled. Some people say I look like her, but alas, 'tis just me. So let's break this bad boy up into sections and jump on over to the chorus. I've tried to see things a little clearer, but I'm still fighting in the mirror. That prize hasn't gotten any nearer, and I'm still trying to see things a little clearer. All right, now because I want the chorus to be bigger than the verse, I'm going to double the vocal that I just did, just like we doubled the rhythm guitar that we did earlier. I've tried to see things a little clearer, but I'm still fighting in the mirror. That prize hasn't gotten any nearer, and I'm still trying to see things a little clearer. All right, guys, I'm also going to record the second verse, but for the sake of saving time in the video, I'll just play the entire song at the end of the video and you can hear it then. But for now, let's jump to the second chorus. I've copied and pasted the vocal takes that we did from the first chorus to the second chorus. Now I'm going to add to them. I'm going to add some harmonies, and I'm also going to extend the chorus by quite a bit. And this is because I'm going to do a call and response type thing between a guitar solo and the vocals. And you'll see more what I mean in a second. Also, just to let you know, the only thing I have on this vocal track right now is some reverb, some slapback delay, some chorus, and some compression. We can take care of the rest in post-production. All right, to start with, I'm going to change the end of the chorus just a little bit and extend it. And I'll show you what I mean by that right now.
Nearer, and I'm still trying to see things a little clearer.
All right, and now for the double.
Getting nearer, and I'm still trying to see things a little clearer. Yeah.
And now for my second favorite part of the recording process, the vocal harmonies. We'll start with a high vocal harmony.
Lost under the spell, and I've tried to see things a little clearer, but I'm still fighting in the mirror. That prize hasn't gotten any nearer, and I'm still trying to see things a little clearer. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're almost there. Now on to the low harmony. And this is actually just going to be an octave, but sometimes it's going to be an octave of the melody, and sometimes it's going to be an octave of the harmony. I'm going to kind of jump back and forth between the two.
Lost under the spell, and I've tried to see things a little clearer, but I'm still fighting in the mirror. That prize hasn't gotten any nearer, and I'm still trying to see things a little clearer. Yeah.
That pretty much takes care of all our parts except for one, and I've saved the best part for last, the guitar solo. All right, guys, here it is, the moment we've all been waiting for, when we turn on a guitar pedal. That's right, I'm keeping my amp exactly the same as it's been this entire time, but I'm gonna hit it with an overdrive pedal, and that's really gonna boost the signal quite a bit, make the tone quite a bit hotter, and also in Pro Tools, I'm gonna throw on some reverb, some delay, and some chorus. So it could get pretty crazy in here. Lastly, when you're playing a guitar solo, it's really important to feel really tall, like you're Godzilla. Like this. And that is that. You have to figure out what works for you when you're doing a guitar solo. For me, I usually like to do it about 20 times, and by the last time, I usually know exactly what I'm going to play. But it's a very personal thing, so you just have to figure it out for yourself. That guitar solo we just did was a little on the long side, and it also didn't have a definitive ending. And both of those things are because I'm going to use it to fade the song out, so you won't really be able to hear what's going on at the end of the solo anyway. Alright guys, so I'll probably spend about a day mixing all this, but as far as the recording process goes, that's just about going to do it. If you like this video, please let me know by clicking the little picture of the thumbs up sign down there. Make sure it's the one going up, that part's very important. And if you'd like more content like this, make sure to subscribe. Also, feel free to let me know in the comments section below what you thought of this video, and if there's anything you'd like to see me do in the future. Hopefully something music related and not some weird fetish thing. Although I might be into that too. Alright, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time.
Trapped inside my brain and stuck inside a mold. I'd delete this forever and leave it lying cold. See, I've been running round circles since day one, burning out without a doubt like butane on the sun. But I keep on going, ain't no slowing till that final day has come. There's no turning back to take a second